Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I have you now. Jedi Master.
I got really energized by Star Wars. In fact, I quit my job as a truck driver and said, well, if I'm going to do this, I better get going.
Here's where the fun begins.
I basically said to my producer, I don't know what we're doing. This guy's making Star Wars. I'm not even in the same universe. I'm not even in the same century.
Going to Star Wars was one of the most exciting experiences that I ever had in my life. Not just movies, but just in my life at that time.
The Force is strong with him.
Anybody that knows me knows that my life was changed at that moment.
For a generation of film fans, the release of Star Wars was an event of epic proportions.
First time I saw Star Wars was opening day at the Grauman's Chinese Theater.
The Chinese was the best place to go because it's a big screen then.
That weekend it hit, and it was the thing to do, and our friend surprisingly said, let's go see it now.
Well, I'm one of those lucky generation that saw Star Wars at the perfect age. I was 16 years old.
I was a 9-year-old little boy living in South Central LA.
I believe I was 14 years old, and I took the bus into Hollywood.
And it was jam-packed.
We stood in long line.
We stood in line for like what seemed to be like forever.
I was the 9th person in line, and I was by myself. And then some friends showed up later, and then they cut into line with me, which kind of pissed me off because I'd been waiting.
I didn't know what it was all about, you know, while we were standing in line.
And I had heard rumblings about it, but nothing specific, really.
Somehow you just knew that it was going to be a very special film. I'm not exactly sure how we knew that.
The anticipation, this place was rocking.
When we finally got in the theater and the lights went down, you know, I was getting impatient. And then the movie started, you know. The Fox logo came up and the title went off. And the first things I saw were a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And then boom.
When that crawl came up, that was a surprise, and you could just feel the excitement of the crowd.
And then the first scene comes in, and the rebel ship goes by.
I cheered, the audience cheered, and I thought, this is great. And then the spaceship that was chasing it came out.
And the Imperial Star Cruiser is chasing out the rebel ship, and you see the planet in the distance.
And it just kept going and going and going.
And went on and on. I mean, that's when you felt the audience's excitement start to rise the longer that was passing overhead.
And by the time that thing passed overhead, the audience was freaking out. I was freaking out, and I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
As audiences emerged from theaters around the world, they brought with them a realization that cinema had been fundamentally changed.
And when we came out, I thought, well, that is incredible. That's a whole nother kind of movie that has now been invented.
Star Wars smashed open the possibilities of what film could actually do. It was like a seismic shift in how people perceived the cinema-going experience. Not only did it have a powerful themes and stories that could resonate, but it was executed in a way that was so much more believable and so much more exhilarating than anything that we'd seen before.
It changed my life totally. I was like, I think I saw it from that moment on nearly once a week.
It wasn't just that I hadn't seen effects like that, but it was so funny.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
And so fast. So exhilarating.
And for aspiring filmmakers, it opened the door to a new world.
It legitimized the way we were and who we were, and the fact that I could go home from school in the evenings and make spaceships out of cardboard tubes and model kits.
And everybody like joked in film school about me because everybody was like Wim Wenders and Fassbinder and stuff. And for me it was like, I kind of couldn't stop talking about Star Wars.
I was kind of stunned. I was depressed, actually.
So I was like, damn it. Somebody else did it. But at the same time, it was like, yes, it's possible.
Perhaps most importantly, Star Wars introduced cinematic techniques and innovations that would change filmmaking for the better in years to come.
There were 2 or 3 key innovations. One, motion, incredibly dynamic. You know, George is an editor, he thinks in cuts, and that film took the stunning kind of sense of detail and the starkness of space that you saw in 2001 and just kicked it into high gear, just turbocharged it, where everything was moving and crossing, and there was huge scale and tremendous depth to the shots.
He said, I am going to put this together in a way that you've never seen it, and it did. It just, that's why it blew people's minds.
And the technological innovations that went into moving those ships and creating that kineticism, you know, the motion control that made that possible, you know, that was a major milestone in visual effects history that everyone acknowledges.
It redefined for me the way I think about science fiction, the way I think about fantasy, the way I think about how special effects can be used in storytelling.
Another of the film's key innovations was the concept Lucas called the used future.
Up until then, all science fiction, everything looked like it had been made the day before and just delivered, and you imagined all these spaceships having that kind of new car smell.
Everything was pristine and stainless steel and perfect.
And now all of a sudden there was a future that looked like people had lived there for a long time.
What a piece of junk. She may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts, kid.
It was the first time I'd ever seen science fiction or fantasy presented in that way, that everything was beaten up and dirty and oily and greasy and grimy, and you just believed in it.
Would it help if I got out and pushed?
Because if you believe in the world, you're going to believe in the characters and the emotions and the story.
He made the impossible real, and within the context of that fantasy, he said people still have to wash behind their ears at night.